Mendoza over the middle. Oh, he's got it.
Can get the ball in the hands of Carnell Tate.
David Bailey, he is a sack machine.
Out into the open. What a move, Lemon.
RedZone City, touchdown Ducks. Caleb Downs dislodges the football.
This time, he will not escape.
Ball head is dead, and there he goes. Well off to the races.
You know, people looking at this draft class wondering what it's going to look like. There's a lot of starters to be had deep into this draft.
Mendoza diving toward the end zone.
Looking long in the corner. It is intercepted.
He's got it outside, and he's got another scoop in the middle, and a great catch in traffic.
Man, is he dynamic.
Wrapped up and thrown down by Arvell Reese. Huge smack in the backfield. Get it ahead, and there goes Love.
I'm fired up. It is a really, really good group.
It is the best time of the year. It's when Saturday football converges with Sunday football, and it culminates into the NFL draft. We are knocking on the door for an exciting time for all NFL fans. It's a fresh edition of Mock Draft Live, along with Lance Erline and Bucky Brooks. Mike Am with you. I've seen your Mock Draft 3.0. We dissected Lance's Mock Draft 3.0. Sometimes you got to get some new voices into it.
Yeah, look, I'm looking forward to having a newbie on so we can absolutely tear this mock apart. I've gone through it. I made some notes. I'm ready. And I know the king hater over there, Lance Erline, can't wait to get his hands on this one, too.
Nick, is there a better intro? Nick Shook, go for it, Lance.
I wore my good jacket just to tear Nick up.
Nick, welcome to the show, man. Look, there's nothing better than hearing a warm welcome for a newbie on the show, as Bucky made reference to. For as much hate as sometimes our analysts get on social media for their mock drafts, trust me, Nick, it might be worse for you on the show.
Yeah, but you know what? I've walked into a good amount of locker rooms in my life, and there's nothing like walking into a locker room and getting yourself acclimated to some new teammates. The first thing you do, take a little bit of heat from them. Bring it on. Let's do it.
Okay, rising to the challenge. All right, Nick's not going to back down. I like this, Nick. I like this. Here's the best part. Let's start with your mock draft because we have a consensus among all of our analysts on NFL.com. There's a quarterback that apparently there's been mentioned and linked to the Raiders, and you like him going number 1 overall.
It's probably a consensus across the globe. It's Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner from Indiana. It's a guy that they've been linked to for forever, and it's the guy we all expect them to take. He's a quarterback who's a little bit unorthodox when you try to evaluate him, but he's tough as nails. When he took that first hit in the Big Ten title game against Ohio State, I realized, this kid is built for what awaits him at the next level. And luckily now, because of the Raiders signing Kirk Cousins, they're not going to have to throw him into the fire if they don't want to. So it's an ideal situation for him, and it's easy for the Raiders to make this decision, going with Mendoza at number 1.
Yeah, you and I were talking about this off air. The Kirk Cousins move, certainly a really important one from a Raiders perspective, kind of a no-brainer. Meanwhile, there's a lot of holes that the Jets have, and at least in your mind, it all starts up front on the defensive side.
Yeah, a lot of holes, and they need some production. And there was a big-time producer coming out of Texas Tech in David Bailey, a speed rusher whose closing speed is remarkable. He's incredibly athletic. It allows him to match more elusive quarterbacks who try to escape the pocket. He closes very quickly, and he arrives in a flash, finishes like a detonator. It's one of the more impressive rushers you'll see in college football this past season, and a guy that the Jets really need to shore up their defensive front. So I like this pick for them there.
When it comes to Sunday football, I think there's a lot of fans that hope we get to see what he did on Saturdays. Jeremiah Love, as freakishly athletic as we've seen in this draft.
I'm sure some folks, I've seen it online already, have a little bit of an issue with this pick, but I don't, because I've watched the Arizona Cardinals over the last 2 seasons, and their story has essentially been this. Did James Conner run well? Yes, they may have won. Did he not run well? No, they probably lost. Now, of course, you have a new regime coming in, and you have Conner coming back from injury. They also signed Tyler Algier. They have a loaded backfield, at least in terms of bodies. But Jeremiah Love is a home run hitter. He's a 3-down back. He's more useful even as a pass catcher, even though he's a willing blocker. He does everything, and I think he's the guy they need to power this rushing attack going forward.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of issues, and there's a reason why the Cardinals are picking 3rd overall. But to get a centerpiece of an offense for your offense like Jeremiah Love would make a whole lot of sense. Meanwhile, one of the cool things that we're seeing right now is the fact that Nick is very confident that Love is going to be taken early. In fact, among our experts on NFL.com, Nick's got him with the highest selection that we've seen. That is 3rd overall. Time for Draft Builders, presented by Lowe's. Lance, I know you obviously like what he brings to the table, but take me through the potential for him to be a generational type talent in the backfield.
Well, I struggle with that phrase. Everyone uses it so much, but one of the things that stands out about him is his long speed and his ability to hit big plays. And to do that, you've got to be able to escape problems on the first level, and then you take off. He's got that. He's loose and explosive, as it says right there on the screen. He's got the ability to shake the first level. He can get skinny in the hole. That's another element to his game that's very, very important, because once he gets into the open field, he's got tremendous speed, balance, and finish. That's the calling card of how many extra yards can you get after contact. If you don't have good finish, if you don't have good balance, the run stops there. So he's got all the different elements on the first level, the second level, and then the speed on the third level to hit big plays. And if you can hit big home run plays as a running back, that gives you, I don't want to use the G word necessarily, but it does put you in elite company when you're not having to get 24, 25 carries. You're hitting big, long home runs on 13, 14, 15 carries. It's the way you win in the NFL right now, explosive plays.
Yeah, the explosive plays he can deliver as an offensive weapon. That's the way I would call him, not just as a running back, but as a guy that can catch the ball out the backfield. He is a threat to score from anywhere on the field. And as I think about, in this case, the Cardinals and what they need, and I think about Mike LaFleur and being groomed under Kyle Shanahan and then Sean McVay, he understands the importance of not only the running game, but having that marquee back in place. Jeremiah Love is the only marquee back in this class, and so if you have a chance to take him as a top 5 pick, it's a no-brainer. Hand in the card.
And you know what I love about him? It sounds simple, but he's exceptionally skilled at just staying off the ground, staying upright, and continuing those long runs, like you guys just said. It's an ideal situation for a team that doesn't really know what they want to do at quarterback right now. Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, they still have to figure out a long-term plan, so I love it there.
I almost sort of hesitate here because I think what the fit was for Genty, and I feel like there's a lot of conversations and similarities in terms of how we view him, and it didn't necessarily work out with the Raiders, and you just kind of hope that the pieces around Jeremiah Love for Arizona, they're able to figure that out. But we continue with Nick's mock, and a run, look, usually it's a positional run that we have in the draft, but it's a school run. Orville Reese, Ohio State, you like him. We got some of our mocks, Nick, that have him as high as 2.
As high as 2, and I think that the Titans are really lucky to get him at 4. And this is one of those situations where maybe they have needs elsewhere, but they cannot ignore a dynamic talent like Orville Reese, a guy who I think they shouldn't just box into being an edge rusher yet. They can move him around like a chess piece of sorts and really make an impact on this defense under Robert Saleh's direction. So you can't pass him up here.
Yeah, we'll talk more about Reese in just a moment. Sonny Styles, if I'm not mistaken, Bucky had him 5, as do you, going to the G-Men.
2 Buckeyes in a row, and I know that they just went and signed Tremaine Edmonds, and that doesn't matter to me because Sonny Styles is a Fred Warner type who is just as good in run defense and as a tackler as he is in coverage, and the centerpiece of a Giants defense that needs a leader like that at the second level. And it's another talented player that if you're the Giants and you get to 5 and he's there, you simply cannot pass up on him no matter where your needs are. So another Buckeye, this time going to the Big Apple.
And at 6 overall, the Cleveland Browns taking the first wide receiver off the board.
I don't care about Carnell Tate's 40 time because I've heard the comp you guys have done in the past to Devontae Adams, and I see it in a lot of his game. He's also the best contested catch maker coming out of college football this year, and it's something that the Browns sorely need. No matter what they do at quarterback, they need a player who can make contested catches. So you throw him into this offense. He's not quite a number 1 receiver necessarily, but he's a guy that you're going to be able to count on no matter who is playing quarterback for you.
And then when it comes to the Washington Commanders at 7, which direction do you think they go?
We finished off the 4-pack of Buckeyes with Caleb Downs, and it's another player where you get to the board at 7, and the Commanders have a ton of defensive needs. Their defense was terrible last year. That's Dan Quinn's calling card. So he goes and gets a player like Downs, who was one of the best defenders in college football, regardless of team. He was also the best defender on Ohio State's defense, which was an elite defense. And if you look at the fit in there, they could use playmakers like that. He's a 3-level safety who I think makes an instant impact for Dan Quinn, and you cannot let him slide past number 7 on this draft board.
As Nick made reference to a 4-pack, the Buckeyes, you just sort of look at what they were able to accomplish at the college level, and all these guys will presumably be stars at the NFL level. Picks 4, 5, 6, and 7. Reese, Styles, Tate, and Downs, all usually or previously rocking that Buckeyes uniform. We will find out where they will land in the NFL draft. I want to circle back on Reese because if I'm not mistaken, you actually were one of our mocks that had him at 2, so you see massive upside right now from, at least from Nick's perspective, to Tennessee.
Yeah, the look, there's a lot of upside because he is a bit of a unicorn. Talking about an off-ball linebacker that can give you some of that pass rush presence off the edges. And when you watch him on tape, it is easy to see why coaches fall in love with him. First is the speed, quickness, explosiveness, however you want to tag it. He has that. He has the ability to turn speed into power, which gives him that knockback power at the point of attack. And for someone who is just learning how to be a consistent pass rusher, man, the future is so bright because he can do so many things, just like moving around and coming on stunts in games. And then in coverage or watching the quarterback, he can do all those things. We talk about linebackers, off-ball linebackers, being effective as guys that can hit, run, and cover. Arvell Reese checks off all the boxes, and he gives you a little more because he has the pizzazz to go with it.
Yeah, and Bucky, he's not Micah Parsons as a rusher, but let's call him Micah Parsons adjacent. He's got some ability to really get off the ball quickly, explode as a rusher, and that's why most people are looking at him as an edge rusher. He played just as much linebacker. I think he's got a lot of physical comps and kind of play comps, both good and in terms of needs work with Tremaine Edmonds when he was coming out of Virginia Tech. Long, fast, rangy, explosive. So, it's going to be a matter of fitting into one role and doing that role really, really well. I don't think you want to use him as some type of hybrid player too early in his career. You want him to get really good at rushing the passer. But from a skills and trait standpoint, he's got what it takes to become a very good pass rusher as long as he stays on the proper path to development.
Yeah, and that's why I think that you start him as an off-ball linebacker and you just let him develop from there and let his talents come through, because this was his breakout year and he was all over the field for Ohio State from the first game they played against Texas. You let that blossom, and I think he's just scratching the surface, and then you see where he goes from there, over the next 3 to 4 years.
Nick, we'll continue with the 8th overall pick on your mock draft 1.0, which, by the way, is available on NFL.com. 2 edge players off the board. Here's number 3. I had to watch a ton of ACC football. This dude, Nick, an absolute game wrecker.
Ruben Bain, a game wrecker indeed, really shined in the college football playoff, but was a presence throughout the season for the Miami Hurricanes. And this is a need addressing effort here by the New Orleans Saints. Cam Jordan's still unsigned. He's near retirement anyway. You need a long-term replacement there. You get a guy like Bain. I'm not worried about his arm length. It doesn't really concern me given his play style, which is more about power than pure athleticism. And he fills that void at edge. And for the next 2 years, he could be paired with Chase Young, who's under contract for 2 more years. And that's very enticing for the Saints.
Yeah, look, by the way, and I know sometimes we talk about slotting guys, Buck, and Daniel Jeremiah's got him 7th overall. You had him 12th overall. When you guys do these mocks, sometimes it's not just, hey, this is the 7th most talented guy, or in this case, according to Nick, the 8th most talented guy. Sometimes it's about fit and where some of these other guys will get slotted. So I know you like Bain. What does the tape tell you?
Look, the tape says that he is going to be a fantastic player because I would say watching the college football playoff, you saw someone who got better and better over time. First thing that stands out when you watch his tape is his effort. He is relentless, high motor player, super competitive, turns speed into power, but also can overwhelm you with just his explosive power. I love the fact that he has the ability to go inside. He has a rugged game, and the rougher he gets, the better he plays. This is someone who is very violent at the line of scrimmage. He has that nasty that you like. And for someone, if you're a team looking for somebody to kind of set the tone, to change the culture, he has all that because his bull in the China shop style is effective. And Nick talked about the short arms. When I look, Brandon Graham is someone that he's often compared to. Brandon Graham's arm length is 32 7/8. Bain comes in less than that. But when you look at the size dimensions and all those other things, he is right there. And Brandon Graham has had a fantastic career as a Super Bowl champ.
I'm a fan of Ruben Baines. I gave him a 6.7. There's only, I think, 6 players in this draft that I gave a 6.7 or higher to. So I like him. I want to counterbalance something here. I will tell you, my dad was an NFL O-line coach, and he said there's one thing, people who minimize arm length for offensive linemen never had to coach against NFL pass rushers. I talked to 2 NFL teams yesterday, and when we got to Bain, they both talked about shorter arms, probably a guy who goes somewhere in the top 10 or 12. Bucky's got him 12 in his mock draft. I just want to prepare people for the fact that there is a chance that he falls a little beyond where maybe the tape says he should go, because NFL teams rely so heavily on historical norms. And I don't want to just minimize the arm length. I hear what Nick's saying, and a lot of what I see in Ruben Bain, I don't think the arms are going to be as big a deal for him. I do think there are going to be plenty of NFL teams that do have a big problem with it, though. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. But one last thing I really like about him is his instincts on the edge. He is not a guy that gets fooled by, different types of blocking schemes. He's able to kind of read instinctively and react and still preserve his leverage, which I think will really help him out. Now, of course, arm length does matter in that too, but I'm still not worried about it just because of his style of play is so powerful and the effort is relentless. And that is what's going to matter most, I think, as he makes the leap to the NFL.
Yeah, I know sometimes we obsess over some of the measurables and what you do at the combine and how fast you run and how far you jump. At the end of the day, you put on the tape, and you guys been watching all the tape on these guys. And Lance, I think you said it best with your grade there. You look at the production. The guy was able to produce. There's that.
The production is there, but I think he's more of a compliment than a dominant guy. Number 2, not a number 1.
Okay, so once again, a little cautionary note from a couple of our guys when it comes to Ruben Bain. We got more to come here, though, on Mock Draft Live. Coming up, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Rams. You're on the clock. Who's about to lock down that missing piece for a Super Bowl run? We got the answer to that, and it's coming up next. Well, back here on Mock Draft Live, just a couple weeks away from the 2026 NFL Draft. And, of course, we will have you covered. And by we, I mean Lance and myself. NFL Draft Center, all 3 rounds right here on the NFL channel. You can catch us April 23rd through the 25th. You're not geeked up for this? I can't wait. We've been doing this the last couple of years.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. Get those snacks ready. Snacks.
All right, we continue with Nick's Mock Draft 1.0. Kansas City, Nick, you think they're going defense here?
Yeah, Mansour Delane, the best corner in this class, had a phenomenal third season at LSU. And the Chiefs have a need at corner. They lost Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie in March. They did sign Kader Kohu, but they get a starting-ready cornerback, the best one in this group, in Delane, who is so smooth, just polished, and a guy that I think can step in right away and serve as a replacement in this Chiefs defense.
Well, a little bit of a mini run here on corners, because at number 10, we got another one off the board.
Yeah, this has been a big topic of conversation for the last couple of months. McCoy or Delane. Jermod McCoy goes to Cincinnati at 10. This is the pick that I'm probably the most conflicted about because they really have needs at linebacker. They could really have a need on the defensive front, but at this point, it's best defensive player available because they need so much help on the defensive side. And they get a physical corner in McCoy who's got great ball skills. Obviously didn't play football last year because of the ACL injury. Looked good at his pro day, and all signs are pointing up for him. It might be a little high for him considering the concerns about his health, but I'm not too worried. You add it to a secondary that includes DJ Turner and Dax Hill, and the Bengals are suddenly strong in the back end.
We'll show you what the Dolphins are going to do at 11 in just a moment, but we check in with the 12th overall pick. The Cowboys, the direction they go, safety.
Dylan Thieneman from Oregon. This is probably the highest you'll see him taken, but I think it's about fit with who their new defensive coordinator is. Christian Parker, history of coaching a guy who's somewhat similar in Cooper DeJean in Philadelphia, and Thieneman has that same level of versatility that the Cowboys desperately need at the second and third level. He's a rangy, natural athlete who can play in the box, who can play deep. I think he fits in there as they continue to try to rebuild this defense.
All right, let's take a closer look and recap picks 9 through 12. I made reference to the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, a new quarterback in Malik Willis there, the big fella Ioane out of Penn State, a little bit of a protector for their new QB1. For a little bit more now on some of these guys in the secondary, time for safe picks presented by Gillette. Delane and McCoy, these are two guys, and I dare say, razor-thin margin buck for both of these players. And yet, at the end of the day, McCoy, who I know Nick made reference to, not a whole lot of football coming off injury, looked good in the pro day. Which guy would you rather have in draft?
This is tough because both of these guys are talented, but I'm going McCoy because when you watch McCoy off tape, he is as talented as they come and very refined. And the thing that we needed to see coming off that ACL, what does he look like when he returned? Well, all accounts of his pro day, he was terrific. Ran fast, jumped high, moved well, all those things. When you go back and you watch the tape, man, you just talk about someone who has the natural ability to be a CB1 at the next level. I just got to take him, man. He is fantastic, a plug-and-play player who should be a premier corner early in his NFL career.
I'm going Mansour Delane. I gotta go the other way on this one, and I tell you why. It's the 3 Bs for me with Mansour Delane. Mansour Delane. He's got body control, he's got ball skills, and he's got burst. And when you have all 3, you can shade routes, you can read routes, you can hound routes, and then you got the burst in zone to go make plays on the ball. And the ball skills, as I mentioned, it shows up in the passes defense and the takeaways. He just, he really took his game from Virginia Tech last year to LSU this year. It really jumped up a level. He's noticeably better. I think he's more comfortable, and he definitely is, to me, the best corner in terms of reading routes and being able to really follow those routes and suffocate routes at the break points.
Yeah, the shadowing skill is exceptional. It's just very instinctive. And I think when you go back to team fit here, as it fits in this mock draft, it's about the Chiefs needing an immediate replacement, a team that missed the playoffs, a team that holds themselves to a higher standard, and they desperately need a starter in their secondary. And he projects more right now immediately as a guy that I would trust to be able to come in and start right away and make a difference because of those skills that Lance just described. And that's why it makes the most sense for me with the Chiefs there. And I think the Bengals get a guy with a lot of upside that maybe they don't necessarily need to get right away.
Yeah, I think the fits both make some sense for both of these squads. Nick, we continue with Mock Draft 1.0 for you. 13th overall pick is owned by the Rams, and there's a big body that's going to be sitting in front of Matthew Stafford.
It's tackle Francis Mauigoa from Miami. The Rams have a need at right tackle. Rob Havenstein retired. They get a powerful right tackle in Mauigoa who could step in and immediately make that difference that they need to keep that offensive line as stout as it's been, protect Matthew Stafford, open rushing lanes for Kyren Williams. So it just makes a lot of sense for him to go here. Again, probably a guy that you might see going a little bit higher than some mocks as we get closer to the draft, but I feel good about it here at 13.
Another big body, and this one at 14 for the Ravens feels like a Baltimore pick. Spencer Fano, who did some good things in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, he definitely did some good things in Salt Lake City, but it's a question of where does he play at the next level? He's already expressed being open to playing guard. The Ravens clearly have a need at center after losing Tyler Linderbaum to the Raiders. So I think, well, if you don't play him at tackle and you move him to guard, maybe he could also be a replacement at center. It's a far-reaching, kind of attempt for me at this point, given that he played tackle in college, but he's a guy who is versatile and could fit a number of different roles, and you can never have too many offensive linemen in the NFL.
Yeah, and at 15, I think the same can be said on the other side of the line. The Buccaneers, fourth edge player off the board, going defense here.
The Buccaneers need Akeem Mesidor from Miami, the complement to Ruben Bain, another high-effort guy who really shined this past season for the Hurricanes. But they need him because they haven't had an edge rushing presence over the last 2 years. I mean, they were 24th against the pass last year. Todd Bowles, he's a defensive-minded guy, and how do you help your secondary in coverage? You get to the quarterback quicker. So you add a guy like Mesidor, who hopefully comes in and becomes your long desire to answer at edge rusher. And he's been productive in college football. I expect him to be productive with the Buccaneers staying in the state of Florida.
All right, we continue with Nick's Mock Draft 1.0. In fact, I feel like we haven't said too many wide receivers. One off the board so far, but coming up, the Jets on the clock is going to be catching some touchdowns from Geno Smith. The answer to that question, according to Nick, is next.
That one caught by Lemon, and a quick turn upfield, out into the open. What a move, Lemon! Man, is he dynamic. Great catch in traffic by Lemon.
Continue with Nick Shook's Mock Draft 1.0. The Jets, Nick, taking the second wide receiver off the board.
Yep, Mekhi Lemon. And you think, well, they have Garrett Wilson on this roster, but what's better than one number one receiver? Two number one receivers. Last year, the Jets, once they lost Garrett Wilson, had cobbled together this weird receiving core that included John Mechie and A.D. Mitchell. They give Geno Smith more options that they can rely on this year with a higher ceiling by adding Lemon to a group that should also include, tight end Mason Taylor. It's all about giving the veteran multiple talented pass catchers, and I think they get one here in Lemon. Bolster that group.
At 17, the Lions taking the fifth edge player off the board in Cassius Howell.
We've heard the concerns about his arm length, much like Ruben Bain. His arms are even shorter, but Brad Holmes is the one GM more than any other in the NFL who is going to just absolutely ignore those concerns and take the guy that he loves. He did it in the past with guys like Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell. He does it again with Cassius Howell, a dynamic rusher capable of being a difference maker against the run. And they finally find a running mate for Aiden Hutchinson and end that talk that has circulated around the Lions for the last 2 seasons. Who is their other edge rusher? Well, we're going to spend a first-round pick and answer that question right now with Cassius Howell.
Yeah, I love the pick, especially when you consider some of the deficiencies that team has had getting after the quarterback. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Vikings at 18.
Safety Safety Emmanuel McNeil-Warren from Toledo. Harrison Smith is headed toward retirement. This is a high-energy, hard-hitting safety. He's versatile, fits perfectly in Brian Flores' defense because he can play in the box, but he can also erase advantages downfield for the Vikings. And I think that this is a guy that, he's kind of varied in mock drafts, depending on where you see him, somewhere in the teens, somewhere as late as 30. I think the Vikings, they realize they have a need at safety, and they take the best remaining one on the board in McNeil-Warren.
And at 19, Lee Hunter to Carolina. Why?
Welcome in a new face that has not appeared in anybody's mock. And I heard Lance last week say, I love this pick that I made for myself. Well, I love this pick that I made for myself for the Carolina Panthers because it's all about complimentary draft picks here on the defensive interior. We know what Derek Brown is. He's an electric pass rusher. He's just a force inside. Now you get a great run stopper in Lee Hunter to give you a 1-2 punch in the interior as they beef up their front with the addition of Jalen Phillips as well. I love this selection, even if it flies under the radar for most people.
Yeah, meanwhile, as you take a recap here, look of Nick's picks 16 through 20. Dallas Cowboys, by the way, their second pick in round number 1, going with another safe player in the secondary. Terrell, remember, Nick had Thieneman out of Oregon, 12th overall, so double downing on defense for the Dallas Cowboys. There's a whole lot of D's that I just said there. The alliteration in full effect. Lance, I know we talked about Lee Hunter, and I know Nick gave us his take on him. When you pop the tape and you're sitting in front of that home plate that says Zerline in front of you, you got the feet up on the desk, what is flashing for you?
First of all, I wish I would have had that mock draft in front of me with them tacos at lunch today because it's spicy. I like them tacos spicy. What I'm saying, 19 is, look, man, that's serious business for a guy who's not a great rusher. But what Lee Hunter does well, what he has is great size, and he has great short area explosiveness. And you saw it right there. Boom. He can stack and shed very, very quickly. Tremendous upper body power. He's got a little get off on the first step. He basically ruined Oregon and tried to get inside the top 5 picks of the draft with that game. And at the Senior Bowl, there was some positive there. Look, he's a big guy. I think some of the drills are going to favor him in one-on-ones because it lasts a little long. But he showed some pretty good movement talent. You see him right there, kind of sidestep the defender and get into the backfield. Lee Hunter, I think, is going to be a 2-gap run plugger in the middle. I know a lot of times those kind of players are not valued in the first round. But then you check in 2 or 3 years later and you see a team that has a really good run defense, Bucky, and it's, quite frankly, it's because they can act as drains, as, those drain cloggers in the middle.
Hey, look, man, Lee Hunter, Lance is down there in Texas talking about Whataburger. He's a big old burger with spicy ketchup and all that. Now, the thing about it is his run defensive stopping skills are terrific. He is going to be a menace at the point of attack. But at 19, we got a big old man with a 21-inch vertical that we're taking. Nick Shook, that's really spicy. I'm gonna need some pink lemonade to wash that down and get that one. Man's talking about them tacos. I'm talking about Whataburger. I'm gonna need something to wash that one down because that's a tough one at 19.
I think Derry is probably your best solve for that situation. But yeah, look, I'm going to stick by this one because I think that there's some strength in having a guy that can stop the run alongside a guy like Derek Brown. And I want the Panthers to become a force up front and really become a balanced team. They won the division last year. I need them to build on this, and they can go outside the box with this to make me happy.
I actually like where your head's at here. At the end of the day, though, all this talk, I'm already getting hungry. Am I the only one that eats bland? You guys are bold before shows.
Oh, I can talk about it. I can't eat that. My little tummy be twisting and turning.
I'd
be flipping around.
I know.
I wouldn't make the show.
I've been out to dinner with you. I know. I would have been surprised if that was the case. Nick, I want to continue with some of your picks here. The Steelers, if I'm not mistaken, at 21, they're on the clock and they're going with a big fella.
Yeah, and they're excited that Monroe Freeling fell to them at 21. Look, this is a make-or-break year, I think, for Broderick Jones at left tackle. He has not lived up to the expectation that the Steelers had from him when they took him from Georgia. And maybe taking another Georgia tackle is flying too close to the sun. Doesn't matter to me because this is the guy that you can select from this class that you can count on to be a long-term left tackle. It's a high-upside guy who I think could immediately bring some competition and potentially be your solution to the problem at that position. And at 21, you're happy to take a player like that.
Yeah, we got another wide receiver. In fact, for Nick, for you, it is your third off the board. The Chargers getting Cooper.
Omar Cooper, a guy that I saw Lance comp to Deebo Samuel, and I love that comp, and I love how that might fit in with the Chargers. Now, Ladd McConkey owns the slot a lot of the time, but he also does play outside sometimes, and I think Cooper offers similar versatility, which just gives you more options in this receiving core. A receiving core that didn't really get open very often last year when Justin Herbert did have time to throw, which didn't really happen much. And you think, well, maybe they should take an offensive lineman. No, I want a rugged, strong receiver with great run after the catch ability who you can throw into that group. We saw what Keenan Allen did for them last year. You get a young guy who isn't the same type of player, but can make a difference and gives Justin Herbert another guy to throw to.
You know, Nick, the Eagles at 23, they've had some health issues on offensive line. You think they address it?
One of the easiest choices in this entire mock draft. Offensive tackle Blake Miller from Clemson, a right tackle with a ton of playing experience in college, 54 games for the Tigers. They need to replace Lane Johnson before long. We saw what happened to their offensive line last year once Lane went down. Give Blake Miller a year with Lane Johnson to learn from the future Hall of Famer before he eventually takes over for him. It's just an instant plug and play next year, not play this year. And you're planning ahead as Howie Roseman so often does with this roster. It makes too much sense for me.
Yeah, a variety of the mock drafts that are on NFL.com have linked Miller to the Philadelphia Eagles with that 23rd overall pick. Speaking of offensive line, Maxi Honachor to the Cleveland Browns. That also feels like a Cleveland Browns type of selection. And at 25, Caden Proctor, more help for the Chicago Bears and their offensive line. We'll continue with Nick's mock here on Mock Draft Live. In fact, final picks, they are in, and he's got some electric playmakers. I was waiting to see that dude flash out on my screen. We'll tell you exactly where the best tight end in the class is going to be headed, along with some other playmakers. That's next. Just a couple weeks away for the 2026 NFL Draft. Your squad, who are they going to get? We got the answer for you right here on the NFL channel. You'll be able to catch the rounds as things get a little, I don't want to say testy, but like at the same time, like sometimes fans aren't exactly thrilled with the selections. It's time to be happy in Pittsburgh. 2026 NFL Draft presented by Bud Light, powered by Verizon, April 23rd through the 25th. Looking forward to that. We continue with Nick's Mock Draft 1.0. Couldn't help but notice the amount of edge rushers. In fact, he's got 7 of them going in round number 1. A couple of those picks we haven't even gotten to yet. So the San Francisco 49ers, Kendrick Folk out of Auburn going 27, TJ Parker 31. We'll continue with that mock in just a moment, but I'm already thinking, I'm getting a little defensive here. Nick, take me through this. Time for a little cluster buster. When it comes to these edge players, and this is a really good class here, tell me the guy that you feel is like the best sack artist, the one that's going to create havoc for quarterbacks in the NFL.
It's the pure speed rusher and the first one I have on the board. Off the board, it's David Bailey from Texas Tech, and it's solely because it's just so aesthetically pleasing. This is a guy who gets off the line incredibly quickly, has a variety of moves that are really built off of his speed and athleticism, and the way he arrives at the quarterback, it's a shock to see. It is like an explosion when he runs into him. And so, plus the guy doesn't wear any accessories. In an age in which everybody wears sweatbands and gloves and everything else, this guy's got just straight bare arms and hands, and you gotta love that. A throwback of sorts coming off the edge in a flash, blinding speed for David Bailey.
Yeah, there is a toughness factor when you just go all natural out there, just ready to get after quarterbacks. He mentioned hands, Nick did. Lance, who's that edge player that's got the best hands right now in this first round?
That's Malachi Lawrence. Malachi Lawrence has got the great hands. We don't talk about him much, but I remember when I was watching him on tape, I got about 5 minutes into tape and I had to take a scratch paper and start writing down all the different moves I saw. This guy throws a huge number of go-tos and counters at players. And the thing that really sets it off is his hand usage. He is very deft around the corner. He knows how to beat your outside hand with 2-hand swipes, with chops, with the chop rip. He's got a little stab and inside move. He's got a lot of moves that he can get to. And the only way you can really get to those in a lot of cases is going to be your hand usage. And Malachi Lawrence is a player who is really on the come up in the draft. I think he'll go sometime early in the second round. And a big reason is because his hand usage is so good already.
You know, Buck, you know this better than most, right? You played in the league, you understand. Sometimes in these late game situations, margins are so darn thin in the NFL. We always focus in on the offensive guys. Who's the quarterback that's going to trot out there and deliver the game-winning strike? But at the end of the day, sometimes there's another team, right, on the defensive side that needs to get after that quarterback. Game on the line, who's the player that you feel the most confident can get to the quarterback?
Oh, I know you're a little NBA guy. You talking about who can get a bucket. At the end of the game, who can get a bucket? We need a James Harden type. I'm going to go with Cassius Howell from Texas A&M. And one thing that I know, sack production translates to the National Football League, and this dude gets to the quarterback better than anybody else. We talk about dip and rip. Lance talked about a hezzy. Yeah. We got a Euro step. We got all the things that we can get to the quarterback off the edge. He shows it. I don't know what people are going to talk about his arm length, but when you're a slick ball handler and you can kind of keep it on a yo-yo, you find a way to get to the bucket. He's going to do that, and it'll be an and one.
You know, challenge accepted here, because there's an Allen Iverson crossover that Myles Garrett will deliver actually out on the field. We have seen that. So if you want to play this game with the NBA, we'll get some more.
We can go back and forth.
We'll just keep the dance going here. Nick, I want to continue with some of your selections, and we are at pick number 26. I think if there's one team that's going to be thrilled with this selection, Buffalo Bills Mafia, stand up for this dude.
Yeah, wide receiver Jordan Tyson from Arizona State. I was even surprised that he fell this far, but just the way that this mock kind of shook out, that's where he ended up going, and it makes all the sense in the world. Look, Keon Coleman has not worked out for the Bills, whether it was just healthy scratches last year, periods in which they wouldn't run him anywhere except on or outside the numbers, hasn't been the answer that they needed at receiver. And yes, they added DJ Moore, but keep adding to this core. That's the narrative of this team that followed them through the playoffs last year, a lack of depth at receiver. He slides because of injury history, but walks into a fantastic situation with Josh Allen.
You know, at 27, we mentioned that the Niners going with Kendrick Falk. What about the Texans at 28?
Look, let's continue to add offensive linemen in Houston, and we go with tackle Caleb Lomu from Utah, because you can never have enough there. That's been a problem for them over the last 2 years. Now, it wasn't nearly as bad as it was 2 seasons ago. Last season, the sack total ended up about half as much as it was the year before for C.J. Stroud. And Nick Caserio did already sign Wyatt Teller and Braden Smith, but continue adding, continue building and reinforcing the offensive line up front. Ariante Ursary, second-round pick last year, pretty middling performance as a rookie. Let's see if you can throw another guy in there for competition at tackle.
At 29, if this happens for Kansas City, Chiefs Kingdom's going to be just going bonkers.
Absolutely bonkers, because they're getting tight end Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon, an athletic freak who really fits in well in what the Chiefs do offensively. We know that the catalyst for their offense pretty much every year has been Travis Kelce, and we also know that Travis Kelce flirted with retirement, or at least considered it this offseason. He's back on a 1-year deal, but you need the long-term replacement, and you get a guy who fits in pretty well in Sadiq. I know there's some concerns about the hands consistency, but I cannot argue with the athletic profile. That can improve over time with the hands. Get him in there with Kelce, have 2 weapons now, and then a long-term solution at the position.
What about at 30 here? The Dolphins, which direction do you think they go?
The Dolphins have needs everywhere, and especially on the defensive side. And when I looked at their secondary in the offseason earlier before free agency, I thought, God, they could use 3 or 4. They go with cornerback Colton Hood from Tennessee. And yes, they've made some additions already. They added Darrell Baker. They added the safety Lonnie Johnson. They added a depth corner in Marco Wilson. But they need starting quality competition. They lost Kader Kohu to the Chiefs in the offseason, and that's after he only played an abbreviated season last year. So if you add more competition, you do it with starting quality players like Colton Hood, who should probably be a solid starter rather quickly for a rebuilding Dolphins team.
At 31, we mentioned that the Patriots would take T.J. Parker, and at 32, the champs are here, Nick.
Yes, the champs, who, as many champs, often happens to them, other teams poach players from them. Reek Woolen is gone at cornerback, so they replace him with Brandon Cisse from South Carolina, another explosive cornerback who can help, fill that void left by Reek Woolen. Now, Woolen was kind of sliding down the depth chart a bit last season. They really like Josh Jobe, but you just reinforce that secondary because the Seattle defense is a sum of its parts. It's all about their strength and their numbers, and they get a strong one here in Cisse.
Here's a recap here of Nick's picks 26 through 32. My eyes, and it's not just because it's the first pick and at the top line there with the Buffalo Bills taking Tyson, who I know you really like, Bucky. The reality is it feels like every year when we do this show, we talk about Buffalo and say, who's that wide receiver that they're going to grab? It feels like, based off of your assessment the last couple of weeks and what I've heard from Lance and now hearing from Nick, he's their answer.
Yeah, look, Jordan Tyson would be terrific if he's there. When I look at him, he reminds me a lot of Jackson Smith and Jigba. Smooth route runner, big-time playmaker guy who also kind of had questions leading into the draft about his injury history and those things following a final season where he didn't play much. And Jordan Tyson, to me, he's the only number 1 receiver that I can talk about being in this draft at the top of the board, meaning he can handle the double team, he can play outside and inside. If Buffalo is able to get him and pair him with DJ Moore, they're cooking with gas as Joe Brady takes over.
Look, once again, I think Buffalo is a team every single year we start talking about, hey, is this window closing? You feel like offensively you get a piece like that at that wide receiver spot, it really could change things. And I start this show a lot of times talking about hope with the draft right around the corner. You have an opportunity opportunity to take 2 guys in the first round. That can change the fortunes of an entire franchise. Here's a look at Nick's picks for the teams with 2 selections in round number 1. And I have no reason to believe that Nick is going to be wrong on any of these picks. So let's just assume this is exactly how it's going to fall. Nick, in your mind, you know that's how it's going to play. But in your mind, who's that team? If you are exactly right, which fan base, which organization is going to say, we hit a grand slam?
Yeah, I appreciate the confidence in this mock draft. It's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs because, look, you get a starting corner, the best corner in the draft, in Mansour Delane, and immediately answer one of your biggest needs that was created in part by off-season turnover. And then you also get a long-term replacement in Kenyon Sadiq at tight end. Tight end's super important for the Chiefs, perhaps more than any team in the NFL. It's just the base, a key part of Andy Reid's offense and a key part of what makes Patrick Mahomes so great. And especially coming off of injury, it's going to be important that he has a couple of reliable guys there. So instead of the Noah Grays of the past, we get Sadiq and Kelsey right away, and the Chiefs gear up for a redemption season.
Yammer, I'm going to make the argument for the Jets. I mean, they got the best pass rusher at number 2. They didn't overthink it. And then they went and got Mekhi Lemon. They didn't overthink that either. They needed a wide receiver, plug and play, game-ready wide receiver. So I like David Bailey right now to go help you get the quarterback at number 2. I just think he's more ready to win. And AG Aaron Glenn needs some wins right now. And the now rusher helps. And then a now wide receiver to plug in with Garrett Wilson, Mekhi Lemon. It just makes a lot of sense as they prepare to have their quarterback of the future in 2027, maybe?
Yeah, no, maybe. Bailey Lemon, by the way, sounds like a really refreshing drink after those spicy tacos that Lance tells us before mock draft live. So.
Look, I like all those picks that Lance and Nick made. Like, they're terrific picks, but I'm going to tell you right here, this is the year. This is the year America's team lives up to the hype because they made some great selections. Dylan Thieneman and Avion Terrell is exactly what Dak Prescott and that offense needs to complement them. So if this comes to fruition, I'm telling you right now, get your ticket, get your confetti.
Confetti?
It's going down.
Oh,
if the Cowboys are able to pull this off, it's going down because this is the year for America's team to do it. Right now, I can just hear it. America the Beautiful. Everything playing. This is it. If they get these 2 guys in the secondary to load up, that's it. I feel it. I just feel it's still here.
No, man.
I'm not even sure Mike Yam and Nick Shook were born the last time the Cowboys won a Super Bowl. So stop calling them America's team. That's over.
But this gives them a chance, Lance. I know you H-Town biased. This gives America's team a chance to go back.
Right.
No, there's a part of that. Lance, this is why I love you, man, because I'm getting up there in age, and you make me feel young, even though that is.
Like,
I'm bald.
I am happy. Look, the salt. There's a lot of salt in there, Nick. But you're right. Know your audience and don't complain. You know what's surprising? Most of our mock drafts, in fact, all of them, only have 1 quarterback taken off the board. We all know that is not going to happen. Who's the consensus number 2 QB? That could change the fortunes of a franchise. Could it be that guy? The answer's next. Well, back here on Mock Draft Live, we have been going through Nick Shook's Mock Draft 1.0, which is available on NFL.com, as is positional rankings according to Bucky Brooks, his top 5 quarterbacks. No surprise to see Fernando Mendoza there. Ty Simpson's name has continued to be circled for a lot of people in NFL circles. Nussmeier, Beck, and Aller, all guys that had great college careers. For a little bit more, though, on Ty Simpson, here's his first draft.
I'm a drill sergeant, so I'm a guy who takes control at the line of scrimmage. Going to make sure that we're in the right play, the right protection. Guy's going to get the guys fired up in the huddle. Whether it's run.
Simpson plunges in for the score.
Take some hits, throw the ball down the field.
Simpson launches in.
I'm going to do whatever it takes to win because I want to be a winner.
Simpson fires a touchdown.
Ty Simpson, quarterback, University of Alabama. I grew up watching Peyton Manning.
Peyton throws one. He's got a touchdown.
Tennessee guy. My dad played Tennessee. I can't remember how old I was, but I was definitely little bitty. I walked across the field and I asked him how does it feel to play against his brother. He said it's hard, but it's fun. So that was a cool experience, and now we've gotten to get pretty close, me, him, and Eli. I really enjoy doing Legos. I like doing the puzzles, the things that you can build and use them as decoration. It's something that I enjoy, and it just takes my mind off of football and any chance I can get to just relax. The hardest one was the Stark Tower with the Adventures. I got that over spring break. It took me a week to build. It's like 5,000 pieces. Might be wrong, but don't quote me on that. To hear my name called on draft night is going to be just surreal and, going to be just a heartwarming feeling just because of everything that I've been through. I've been around football all my life, growing up with my dad, being around the game, watching it when I was a kid. I don't ever remember missing a draft. My journey is so unique than, other people's. I went to the University of Alabama and didn't play till my last year.
Ty Simpson just in a zone tonight.
When I learned so much from, the guys in front of me and my teammates, and, I made the most of my opportunity when I got it.
Just a beautiful play all the way around.
Football is my life. The fact that God put me here and has given me this talent is a blessing.
When it comes to doing a lot of these mocks, our guys are assessing everything. I think his Lego building is definitely worthy of a first-round grade. But, Nick, for you, in terms of the quarterback play, is this a guy that should be taken in the first round?
Yeah, there's a lot of dedication required in the Lego tower building, right? But I don't think he's quite worth a first-round pick. I do think that he may end up in the first round because this time of year, one quarterback always gets elevated by the draft machine as we get closer and closer to the draft, and it seems like he's the guy that's going to get pushed forward. And I have a creeping suspicion it may be the Cleveland Browns because of Todd Monken's familiarity with him. But I do think we'll end up seeing him in the back end of the first round, and I'm not 100% certain that he's there just yet as a first-round pick.
Yeah, I would say it would be tough for me to take him in the first round. I have a second-round grade on him. The size, the lack of experience, only 15 starts. And then just the arm. The arm is fine, but it's not superior. If I'm going to take a first-round pick, I want that guy to have all the blue-chip marks in his arsenal.
Yeah, I like him. There's some things I really like about Ty Simpson, but the fact is, I think for a player with only 1 year of experience, there's only a certain amount of teams that really he should go to in that particular instance. I think you've got to have a great organization around you if you're a 1 year starter. And I don't think I could pull the trigger on first round. He is a 1-2 this year. He's on the borderline, but boy, it's just really tough. You got to have the right team.
So right team, but I got to imagine inside those draft rooms, sometimes you get a little antsy. Like if you need a quarterback and you're sitting on that edge, do you think about maybe moving?
Shouldn't get antsy. The grade is the grade. When you're grading them, you should have a grade that is historical. And where Ty Simpson loads up, I can't think anybody would say that he is a first-round talent over a decade. I think right now, top of the second round.
Yeah, I think it's a little
right.
bit
And situation just matters so much to me. I think when you talk about, is this guy going to hit his ceiling? Ceiling is really affected by situation. I don't know if the right situation is available for him to step in and really be productive.
Well, let's find out how it all looks on draft nights, plural. Nick, great stuff, man. You didn't take too much heat, so great job by you.